How did we get here? Why do people have such drastically different results on DoorDash? Maybe you feel like no matter how long you're out or how many orders you accept, you just can't earn as much as the next guy. I feel like driving for DoorDash has become an expectation versus reality meme. There's countless videos on YouTube setting high earning expectations, but how realistic are those videos? And more importantly, is DoorDash still worth it for the average driver in 2023? Before we go any further, pause the video and leave a comment saying yes, it's worth it, or no, it's not worth it. So, back to our question. Is DoorDash still worth it in 2023? Well, depending on where you go looking for that answer, you could get two very different responses. Of course, I have some thoughts on that or I wouldn't be making this video. Before I give you my opinion, I need to ask you a couple of questions first. Why is it that there's content creators that seem to be rolling in DoorDash money? Meanwhile, there's countless posts on Reddit talking about how it's nearly impossible to earn minimum wage on the app. Why is it that some drivers seem to be thriving on DoorDash, meanwhile others are hanging up their dash bags and returning to full-time W-2 work? In this video, we're going to analyze both of those questions and talk about if DoorDash is still worth it in 2023. We're going to get into some numbers and how much you may or may not earn here in a little bit. But first, we need to understand why there's such a wealth gap between drivers and content creators who also drive. Don't get me wrong, there's plenty of creators in this niche that I respect and who do know what they're talking about. But as a whole, I feel like YouTubers are responsible for setting an unrealistic expectation of what it's really like to drive for DoorDash. That said, this video is going to focus on expectation versus reality. Let's begin by talking about the content creators and why our reality might not be the same as yours. There's been a lot of speculation in the community lately about who's being paid off and who's not. With that said, I'm not, nor will I ever be sponsored by DoorDash, but that should go without saying. The opinions you're going to hear in this video are my own and were not influenced by any outside company, but rather years of personal experience as well as hearing from thousands of you. Matter of fact, I've been accused of being too critical, and my response to that is, I will always call it how I see it. I will never piss down your back and tell you it's raining. For this part of the video to make sense, we need to have a conversation about content creators. I'm going to share some little known secrets about how YouTubers are paid and how that influences the videos we make. Explaining this will help you understand the gap between creators and drivers. When you watch content on YouTube and see an ad, that creator is getting paid, and that does include me. Let me ask you this. Who do you think would get paid more? A channel with 1,000 subscribers that pulls 50,000 views a month, or a channel with 50,000 subscribers that pulls 20,000 views a month? Assuming that both channels are monetized, the correct answer is probably the channel with 1,000 subscribers. Partnered YouTubers are paid solely based on the views that we receive, and our subscriber count has almost nothing to do with it. I've got a couple videos on my channel that I've spent upwards of 30 hours scripting, filming, and editing that have made me less than $50. However, I also have videos on my channel that make me hundreds of dollars a month, every month. Getting you to click on the video is the holy grail for YouTubers. We actually have dedicated metrics for how many people saw the video versus how many people clicked on it. I'm getting to the point, I promise. Which video would you be more likely to click on? A video titled My Wednesday DoorDash Shift, or a video called How I Turned a Slow Wednesday into a $300 Day? You'd probably click on the second one, and content creators know this, or at least the experienced ones. Now that we've deduced that people are more likely to click on a video with a flashy title and thumbnail, you can see why it's in the creator's best interest to have a compelling title and thumbnail. Personally, I think it's incredibly irresponsible of Gigtubers to release a video like The Secrets to Unlock $300 a Day every day on DoorDash, regardless of your market. And admittedly, I've been guilty of making some of those if I can do it, you can do it too videos on my early days of YouTube. Here's the truth though. Content creators can turn on our cameras, edit the shit out of our videos, and show you only what we want you to see. I can't tell you how many times I've set up the camera at my waiting place and ended up scrapping the video because I didn't end up with enough footage to make a video out of. And it happens from time to time. We can film as many times as we need to get the desired outcome. The next time you see a content creator showing off huge earnings, you should pay attention to a couple of things. What was their active time versus online time? If they're not showing that, that should be a red flag. I could pull $300 a day every day if I were driving for 18 hours. Next, what market are they in? If they're in a large city, they may have more opportunities with things like the large order program and may have better success with it than you would. If they're driving in California, they're also getting supplemental income under Prop 22. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I make $200 to $300 every time I drive for DoorDash, because I don't, and that would be very irresponsible of me. Have I made that much? Yeah, many times, but it's not the norm for me. Drivers in larger markets could look at my earnings and be pretty underwhelmed. Meanwhile, drivers in smaller markets could look at the sheer number of orders I get on a daily basis and be blown away. Do you see what I'm getting at here? As content creators, we need to stop setting the precedent that our reality is everyone's reality. A one-size-fits-all approach is rarely the answer and will frequently lead to unrealistic expectations. After all, what works in my market may not work in yours, and vice versa, except for multi-apping, but I kind of feel like that's a no-brainer. Look, to summarize this video, I think it's human nature to see a flashy title like earn $300 a day on DoorDash and want to watch the video to find out how. I hate to burst your bubble, but that's just not a reality for everyone. I'm going to leave you with one more thing about content creators in this niche. The well-established channels that pull thousands of views per video are earning a very healthy full-time living from YouTube and are likely only driving for content. At this point, I drive because it's a way for me to decompress and because I genuinely love it. This may piss some people off, but again, I will always be honest and transparent. You guys see a 10-minute video. What you didn't see is the hours or even days that went into making that video. I've worked all kinds of jobs, and I put by far more hours into this than I have anything else. By a mile. And don't get me wrong, I am extremely grateful for where I am and the people who got me here. Basically what I'm trying to get at is content creators in this niche who have larger channels are likely not driving all day, every day. We just don't have the time. With that said, it doesn't change the fact that we have put in the time and many of us do know what we're talking about. Just exercise common sense when choosing the content that you watch. Now that you have a better understanding on why content creators create the videos that we do, let's have a conversation about why some drivers can't seem to earn a living wage. I want to preface this next part by saying I am well aware that there are plenty of drivers that are still killing it on DoorDash, but everybody's market and situation is different. Of course, there are drivers in larger markets that can consistently earn over $200 a day. There's a flip side to that though. With larger markets frequently comes more drivers. It doesn't matter if your market sees an average of 2,000 orders a day if there's 500 drivers out when you are. Oversaturation is a huge problem, and that's likely not going away anytime soon. With oversaturation comes limited hours, and unless you want to be a top dasher and accept garbage orders for the privilege of accepting more garbage orders whenever you want, this poses a real problem to drivers. Did you know, according to Pew Research, 68% of drivers do this work part-time? On top of that, 41% of drivers work the apps less than 10 hours a week. However, according to that same study, 58% of drivers that responded to that poll reported that their side hustle is either essential or very important for them to meet their basic human needs. With that knowledge, what's somebody to do when they already work full-time and have a very limited schedule, but still need to make enough money to survive, but can't get hours on the app due to oversaturation? They're going to look elsewhere. While many of us, including myself, find the work enjoyable, I'd argue that none of us would be willing to take a loss to do it. Due to oversaturation and ever-decreasing base pay, many drivers are finding themselves compromising on the orders that they're taking just to keep the tires turning. Well, how do I know this? You guys tell me. I have subscribers in all 50 states, and I hear the good, the bad, and the ugly on a regular basis. The DoorDash subreddits are a perfect example of the good, the bad, and the ugly as well. When you ask the question, is DoorDash worth it in 2023? You will find the answer that you want to hear. I guarantee you that the YouTuber that you watch who claims to make $300 every time they drive would not have the same success in a town with 20,000 people. At least not consistently. Sure, drivers can make some wise choices about when and where to take orders and their positioning, but ultimately at the end of the day, it usually just comes down to pure dumb luck and being in the right place at the right time. You didn't get that high-paying order because of your acceptance rate or because Tony knows you by name and thinks you're a stand-up guy. You got it because you were in the right place at the right time. Don't believe me? I'll link a video in the description where Harry Campbell from the Rideshare Guy interviewed the president of DoorDash, and you can hear it in his own words. Now that we've looked at the reality of content creators versus drivers, is DoorDash worth it in 2023? I'm going to approach this based on the statistics you heard earlier in this video. If you have another full-time source of income and you're considering starting DoorDash for a part-time income, there are a few things you should factor in. What market are you in? Are you in a tiny town that's frequently gray? Or are you in a bigger city that's always red and you can drive whatever you want? If your market is always gray and you have to maintain a high acceptance rate to dash now anytime you want, then no, it's not worth it. Work overtime. You'll probably be paid more. If your market is usually red, It might be a different story though. These are the markets where you can completely ignore your acceptance rate and cherry pick the best of the best. Why wouldn't you allow yourself the benefit of maximizing your profits? Another big thing that you need to factor in is how far you could be asked to drive. Gas is not cheap, and my market is about 22 miles from end to end. It's all too common for me to see an order paying 50 cents a mile on DoorDash. Ultimately, you have to ask yourself if those orders are worth it, but I'd argue that they almost never are. However, if you're in a smaller market and it's common to see $7 orders going 4 miles, that's a different story. And then you have this variable, and that other variable. Oh yeah, and let's not forget that variable where no one on YouTube can tell you your market and what to expect. You see what I'm getting at here? Sure, you can and should watch my videos for best practices, but neither me nor anyone else on YouTube is going to be able to tell you how it's going to play out for you in your market. If you're not a driver yet and you're considering it, walk into a Chipotle during lunch and find the people who are standing by the to-go rack staring at their phones ignoring everybody else and ask one of them what it's like to drive in your market. We're going to wrap this video up in just a moment, but there's something I want to leave you with first. The next time you see somebody on YouTube claiming to make $200 or $300 a day on a regular basis, ask yourself if they factored in gas, insurance, maintenance, and oh yeah, the taxes they haven't paid on that money yet. Not to mention the time it took them to earn it. I'm going to ask this question one more time. Is DoorDash worth it in 2023? Maybe.